Welcome back to the Midweek Update.
Hey Mepham, welcome to this week's episode of the Midweek Update.
This week, let's take a look at what it's like to start your teaching career in the middle of a pandemic.
This and more as we take a look at what's going on this week on the Midweek Update. I'm Haley Hepworth.
And I'm Hannah Broxmeyer, and welcome back to the Midweek Update, the B&B show that brings you closer to the people and places in and around the Mepham community.
Well, Hannah, let's start off with some pretty big news we've gotten recently.
Yeah, last week it was announced that winter sports season has unfortunately been canceled due to COVID restrictions.
Let's hear from B&B Sports Director and Sports Talk host Tom Mora about his new development.
Thanks, Haley. Hello and welcome to this week's Midweek Update in Sports. I'm B&B Sports Director Tom Morrow. There's been some more news with the uncertainty of COVID-19 still continuing. 9 months later, from when the pandemic delivered a crushing blow to the sports world for high schools and the pros, it delivered another blow on high school athletes in New York State. The winter sports season here at Mepham and across the state was canceled. High-risk sports, which include basketball, wrestling, volleyball, and ice hockey, competitive cheer, and group dance, have been placed on hold by the governor's office as COVID-19 infection rates continue to increase here in New York State. The New York State Public High School Athletic Association has announced the cancellation of all 2021 Winter State Championships, and as of now, the fall and spring season are currently on hold. Low-risk sports such as track and bowling remain on track to start when school remains in the new year. Stay safe and healthy, everyone, and happy holidays. Back to you, Hannah.
Thanks, Tom. It's unfortunate that the athletes from the district and the whole state can't participate in winter sports, but it's a necessary precaution because of the rising numbers of COVID cases in New York.
Yeah, but there has been some good news as of late. People in the U.S. have begun to take an FDA-approved vaccine, and while it may take a while for most of us to get it, it's the first step towards getting back to normal.
Right. But just because this vaccine is starting to reach people doesn't mean we can stop being careful and following the safety guidelines, especially in places like schools.
Yeah, the schools in our district have done a good job so far of keeping cases as low as possible and staying open during the beginning of this school year. But there's one group of people that these restrictions have impacted that we may not think about.
That group is the teachers who are just beginning their careers this year in the middle of a pandemic. B&B's Luke Malfa was able to see what this year has been like for those teachers.
This year has been very difficult for many students and teachers. But what about the teachers who just started teaching right now? From being virtual for the beginning of the year to now being in school full-time, they had an unusual start to their teaching career.
So some difficulties, definitely, just getting to know the kids right off the bat because of the way kind of COVID, messed everything up in terms of school. Just definitely getting to know my kids and also just getting to know the building and the school environment in general was kind of tough.
See, COVID, as a first-year teacher, as a first time, really, teaching, COVID hasn't really affected me as much. I understand that it affects the kids, but, it's a learning process, especially as a first-year teacher, and, it's a learning process for everything. So, this is the first time I'm teaching, without, with the COVID and without anything else. So COVID has been kind of normal. This has kind of been a normal way to teach.
In mid-August, we got the green flag to come to school on September 8th. A lot was going through these teachers' minds about trying to prepare for a start of a school year like no other.
First day of teaching this year, a lot of unknown, right? Didn't know if we'd be full in person to go the whole way or if we'd be shutting down pretty fast. So definitely a lot more just kind of unknown and seeing what was going to happen, but so far so good.
First day of teaching was an awesome day. Going through my mind really was just about the kids. Just trying to make them feel comfortable with everything going on, wearing the mask, staying socially distanced, especially in the first day, everyone wasn't here. So I was just trying to get the kids accustomed to everything and then, worrying about the teachers and yourself after that because, it's always with the kids.
This pandemic will eventually die down and we will return to normalcy very soon, and these teachers have a bright future ahead of them.
I think these teachers are going to be even better than they would have been pre-pandemic because I think they've learned so much in a really short amount of time that they're going to take with them in their future and apply when we get back to normal. So I think that they're going to be even better than they would have otherwise been.
We wish the best to all these teachers as they start their promising teaching careers. For B&B, I'm Luke Mepham.
Thanks, Luke. It must have been hard for these teachers to stay out of this way. But, just like the rest of us, they've had a successful start to the year.
For sure. Despite the safety precautions, the schools in the district have been running as normally as possible. Unfortunately, it isn't like that everywhere.
Right. Many people have lost their jobs during this pandemic, and with the holidays approaching, helping out these families in need is more important than ever.
Help USI is an organization that, among a lot of work, help people organize a toy drive every year, where companies donate money to help families buy toys for their children all around the world.
This year's drive was especially important, but the problem was that they couldn't hold it in person like most years.
Luckily, they had a connection to us here at B&B. I was able to speak to some of the people involved about the importance of this event and how they connected us to help out. With the holidays approaching, many people have been shopping online or in stores to get presents for their family and friends. Unfortunately, many families cannot afford to buy a lot of gifts for their children, and that's especially true this year after the difficulties these past months. Because of this, many organizations have put together toy drives to help these parents in need have something to give their children during the holidays. Help USA has been hosting a toy drive every year to raise donations for these families in need, but this year's drive was especially important.
Yeah, and in terms of why the toy drive is important, I think it's particularly important this year because, especially for holiday gifts, it's a lot harder for parents to afford them this year. So I think having, people from the community chip in and buy gifts for the kids is going to be something that really brightens the holiday season during a time that I know for so many people is really difficult.
The big issue with holding drives this year was that they could not have all the sponsors that were donating together at a big event like in years past.
So we decided to have this event virtually because there wasn't really a safe way to have it in person. It's usually a huge event with about 500 people. So virtually was kind of the only choice.
This is where B&B came in. Our own Luke Melvin's father works at a company which normally helps out with the production of this event. Since there was no in-person event this year, he took on a new role of connecting Help USA with B&B.
So my first thought was, after knowing about the program, the B&B program, I said, why don't we get B&B involved with this? I think this would be a good fit for them. So I reached out to Mr. Stein and said, I think this is something you guys could do. Certainly TriTech doesn't do this. We're like an integrator. We don't do this kind of stuff. So he then put it all together, and Mr. Russell, basically ran with it. And then we did a lot of meetings with Help USA and their people, and they put it together, and that was it.
Mr. Melfa and Ms. Meinhard weren't the only ones involved in the production of this virtual event, though. Myself and some other members of the B&B crew stayed late here in the studio a few weeks ago to put the drive together.
I think the main thing was just making sure the timings all matched up. So as we were waiting for the next act to be ready, whether it was the magician, the comedian, anything like that, we had to make sure that the host was still talking, so there wasn't like any space in between where nothing was happening, and just to make sure that everything was going at the correct time and we could hear and see the correct thing that was supposed to be happening then.
The virtual drive turned out to be a success, and also a great experience for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think it was a really good experience. Ever since the pandemic started, we haven't been able to do our normal shoots that we would do every year, like concerts or sports games or anything like that. So getting to do something like this, a live event, was, I think, really helpful to, just get a little bit more of that experience that we haven't gotten in a while.
And people really liked the performances, and we were able to raise $150,000 for Help USA. So overall, I think everyone was happy with it. And I think we were able to kind of make the best of a really difficult situation.
The toy drive was really important, especially this year, to raise donations for children for the holidays. From B&B, I'm Hannah Broxmeyer.
That seems like it was a great event to help out families in need.
Exactly. It was also great for myself and the other crew members there to get some experience with live events.
And speaking of live events, B&B has a few coming up in the near future. The Mepham concert in the courtyard has been moved to next Monday at 1:30 and will be live streamed in 9th period classes.
Plus, in the new year, stay tuned for live events similar to the toy drive, but this time featuring our own B&B reporters benefiting the BMCHSD community coverage.
Those both seem like great live events, but B&B also has something premiering soon that isn't live.
Right, but it will be just as interesting. B&B Special, A Semester Behind the Glass, can be viewed on our YouTube channel Monday at 7 p.m. It'll showcase some of the most interesting aspects of the beginning of this school year under COVID restrictions.
These all sound great, but enough talking about our future events. Let's get back to this show.
Right, as you've seen on last few midweek updates, we have a pretty interesting crew running the show from behind the scenes. Let's sit down with Rob Caminetti and James Bickom to find out what they do on the show.
So what do you guys do for Midweek Update?
I am the script supervisor, so I go through the script and I mark up when we switch to what camera when, and that's basically what I do. That's basically my job. Well, I tell the technical director when to switch, but...
That's a lie. I figured out myself. I'm the technical director. I flip through the cameras. I know when to and when not to switch from two-shot to the solo shots.
Well,
I'm playing graphic. No, Bickom, you barely helped me. You barely helped me, Bickom.
Well, what about all the advice I give you about the TriCaster?
Okay, first of all, I did that one time, and then I did all the rest by myself. You just, okay.
I taught you how to export.
Oh! Yes, okay. No.
Yes,
I knew how to export. I knew. You just gave me a brief rundown how to do it again. You kind of like reassured my mind. You told me what to. You didn't tell me what to do. I figured out myself.
I told you what to do.
No, you wish you told me what to do, Bickom. Bickom, I'm about to tell you to do push-ups right now. Exactly. You know what? No,
this is about the strength of the mind, not the strength of the muscle.
2 push-ups. Bickom. What? Bickom, just give me 2 push-ups.
2? Okay. I can do 4, so...
What? No way you can do 4. Down more. There you go. Don't laugh. Get up. There you go. Get up. See, this is why. Louis, get the camera on me. This is why I am the boss. Behind Louis, I am the boss. I'm the one who does everything here. I run the show. Right, Bickom?
Not really.
Oh my god, he just doesn't. He wants to seem like he's a tough guy all of a sudden. Don't worry. Everybody who's watching this, I run it.
Thanks guys. Hopefully they can get that argument resolved soon so we can end the show.
I hope so too, because we're best about John for the final episode of the final one of 2020.
This hasn't been the best year for anyone, but I think it's been a pretty good one for this show. Here's to hoping next year goes just as well.
I think it will. Anyway, that's it for this week's Midweek Update. We'll be back next year with all new stories from around the BNCHST to bring you inside the parts of the community we don't always get to see.
Until then, I'm Haley Hepworth.
And I'm Hannah Brockmeyer, and we'll see you all next midweek.